Hello and welcome to the Darlo Till I Die podcast. And I'm really pleased today to be joined by Darlington FC Chief Executive David Johnston. David was appointed CEO back in May 2017 and has since become a driving force behind the club's off-field operations and its long-term sustainability strategy. David, firstly, thanks for doing this. As I mentioned there, you've been at the club for more than 9 years. You're approaching a decade in the role. Did you ever think when you first took the job you'd still be here this long?
Well, good evening, Adam. And thank you for inviting me on. No, I didn't think so. I think I came in when the club were in quite a dire situation. And once you get into the club, you find that it gets under your skin and you get involved. And the years have just flown by. And I'm delighted still to be here, but there's still a lot more hard work to do. I think there's some stability coming to the club. But the key goals that we set ourselves still need to be delivered, and that remains a focus for me and the board. And we'll continue to push towards that. But yeah, when you said 9 years, wow, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, they do go quickly, the years. Obviously I've got a fair bit I'd like to discuss with you, DJ, but maybe start with some recent news. Just a couple of days ago, the club announcing a partnership with Amazon and a £25,000 donation. I know it's going to be working with the foundation as well, but it'd just be great to get your thoughts on that and how it's going to benefit the club.
Well, yeah, it's a very good deal for the club in terms it brings in additional revenue. Amazon don't really get involved in this kind of thing unless there's a community interest. And there's been a lot of work between the foundation and making a commercial team to establish what they could do for the club. And normally these deals are like a year long. But for me, it was great to get involved with such a high profile company as Amazon. Obviously, the injection of cash is fantastic for the club. But it's more about the profile and the externality that it brings to others looking in when Darlington has secured a sponsor of significance like Amazon to support. It's not the largest financial deal, but I think it's significant that Amazon are happy to partner with Darlington. They can see the way the club is run, they can see our community involvement, they can see the foundation, they can see that we're doing all the right things, and the fact that they're happy to get involved with the club sends testament to the work that's going on off the field.
Absolutely brilliant. I want to just maybe touch on last season, and I'm conscious you've already given a couple of interviews since then. I was there at the last game of the season, and obviously you did a follow up with the club's official site maybe a week or two later. You speak very honestly about the disappointment of missing out on the playoffs, particularly given we were in contention for most of the season. Just wanted to ask you, having had time to reflect further on that, what do you think the club may have learned from the way last season ended?
Look, it was very disappointing in the end. With taking 4 points from last 18 was just we wasn't good enough. But the table never lies. We finished where we were supposed to finish. I think the full-time teams. I also think budgets. They all play a huge part in this, and you need a little bit of luck along the way as well. But sadly, we fell short. It means we've got to be stronger next year. We've got to have the depth to keep going. We've got to have the consistency and the desire. And I know the desire is very much so evident in Steve and Terry and the board. We just got to make sure that we keep push on and push on. I think everyone was disappointed at the end of last season, but we go again. We don't have a huge budget. I mean, I'm hearing budgets for this next season that are coming up from some of the clubs in our league that are eye-watering. But we've got to manage what we've got, get the best of what we've got, and make sure that we have a team of players who hopefully will remain fit and I know under Steve and Terry, they'll continue to fight all the way to the end. So let's hope we go again with a fresh squad and a little bit more luck then we may get there.
Yeah, well, already at the time of recording, there has been plenty of movement. We've signed Mark Beck, Bobby Jones, Max Howells, Paddy McLaughlin, Max Clilsby, and Dylan Stevenson at the time of recording. And sorry, I should mention obviously the likes of Ellis Stanton, Ben Headley, continuing as well. But how pleased have you been with that business Steve and Terry have done so far? And are we hopeful maybe we'll see one or two further additions?
Yes, look, the squad's not finished. I think you've seen from the pre-season friendlies, We've got no players on trial. We'll be making decisions on those over the next week or so. I'm delighted with the signings we've got. I think, again, Steve has signed some a balance of experience, players who played in the higher league, and some youth that's coming through that young and fit and hungry. So that blend of experience and youth hopefully will augur well for the season ahead. But we're not finished yet. We've got a player that we've signed today that I'm not going to mention, but another player coming in next couple of days. And we're not finished there. We're still looking to strengthen in with another one or two beyond that, and then we'll supplement the squad with the loans. And we've already lined up a number of those loan players from clubs that we know very well and who trust us with the development of their young players.
Yeah. Speaking of young players, we've seen Jack Maskell move on to Barnet for an undisclosed fee, and I completely respect and understand the reasons why that figure remains confidential. I did wonder, without sort of going into specifics, what you could tell us about maybe how that deal was structured. I believe it's there's a sell-on clause. Are there also like additional payments linked to Jack's performance or Barnet's progress, and just maybe a few words on Jack, DJ? I know he was a very popular figure within the club. I don't think anyone can begrudge him a crack at the EFL.
Yeah, look, it's great news for Jack, and again, it's testament to Steve and Terry and what they've managed to bring out in Jack. We spotted him a couple of seasons ago at Johnston, and we'd seen him come through, before that. We spoke to players, we scouted him, we looked at him, and he was very, very raw. And I think that first season you saw that, and I've got to be honest, times people questioned me and said, "What have you done there?" But we always knew there's a player there. We always knew that it would come through. He worked. He listened to Steve and Terry. He sorted his life off the pitch as well. You've got to live and train like a pro if you want to be like that. You've got to get your fitness right. You've got to get your diet right. You've got to be working on stuff. And Jack worked on hard now. He listened very much to Steve. Steve took him under his wing, mentored him, and told him what he had to do. And I've got to be honest, before we had lots of offers came in, to be fair. We had 3 or 4 clubs interested. And he had his heart set going to Barnet. His father lives down there. And Steve took him out for the day. He took him to Newcastle United to St James Park just to spend the day with him and talk about making sure it's the right move for Jack. That's how much we care about the player. That's the time and effort we put into it. And Steve came back from there and said, yep, he's convinced me he wants to go to Barnet. So I then negotiated with the chairman. They had a fixed budget that they were prepared to pay, which wasn't fixed. So we managed to squeeze a bit more here and there. And the chairman was a great guy. He lives out in Cyprus, and we talked and we negotiated and got a good deal for Jack. And it's a good return on what we paid for Jack. And yes, as with any deal, we will negotiate add-ons in relation to the performance of the club, and also there's a good sell-on as well. So we've done the right thing. We can't divulge the figures in the deal because that's confidential. But we're happy with the deal, and we're delighted for Jack. And I was over the moon to see him score his first goal the other day. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was against Hitchin, and I sent him a congratulatory text, and he sent me a lovely text back just saying, I'm delighted and thanks for everything the football club's done for him. And I've just said, keep pushing. I want him to score every week, because if he scores every week and gets him move on again, then we'll benefit.
I see.
It's got a long way to go,
doesn't it?
Yeah, look, yeah, he's a handful. He's an absolute handful, and I'm sure he continues with the correct work ethic. I've spoken about work ethic and desire. And if he shows both of them, then hopefully he'll go on again. But I'd love to have a great season with Barnet this season, and we wish him the very best. And now it's up to us to find the next one. And we've got some targets in mind, and we've got to go and pick the next and go again. But great, it's great to be able to take a player in, work with a player, develop a player, improve him both on and off the field, and then see him going to be, to get him moving into the Football League.
Yeah. Great stuff. I mean, like you mentioned there, let's try and find the next one, but how much, developing younger players, maybe from a lower level and generating future transfer income, how much might that become a part of the club's model, if not already?
It has to be at this level. It has to be. We don't own our own ground yet. We drive as much commercial income as we can. The fans support us brilliantly every year with Boost the Budget. But getting windfalls in from player sales obviously add to that budget and allow Steve to go out and look at improving the squad and bringing in, shall we say, Players who play at a high level, players who understand what we're looking to do and try and improve the quality of the squad every year.
I think you've mentioned about the possibility of trying to attract external investment to the club whilst retaining our supporter-owned identity. Yeah, I wondered, and I know it's only been maybe a month or two since you talked about that, if there had been any sort of further developments or, what that external investment would look like in practice.
So the key thing around this, I think we've reached our ceiling in terms of how far the club can go without external support. To get promoted in the National League, we'd need to double our budget. And I certainly can't expect the fans to double their booster budget contributions because they can't afford to do it. So we've reached the ceiling at the moment, and therefore, if we want to progress into the Football League, then we have to do it in a sustainable manner, but I think we need external investment. We've had interest across the last 3-4 years, people phoning, contact me, etc. But there's a lot of tire kickers around who you've just got to filter out and basically thank you for the interest, but it goes nowhere. We have had interest come in recent weeks, in recent months, sorry, and those discussions are ongoing, but it's early stage again. And should something come to fruition, we do our due diligence. We have intelligent people sitting on the board who work in the corporate world, who understand what financial DD looks like, who understand about looking at an individual's net worth, Dun & Bradstreet on their company assets, looking at their holdings, etc., to understand, is this individual of true wealth or not? And we do that homework to say, well, actually, they passed the first test. They have the capital reserve. They can do whatever. Beyond that, it's then around their appetite and whether they're the right fit for the football club and what their demands are. And that's where you get into the detail. And we've got to then filter that out. The board will only bring forward any proposal for external investment if we believe it's in the right interest of the football club. And then it would go to the supporters group who own the football club. And let's be honest, I'm just a custodian. We'll go to the owners to say, is this what you want to do? Now, what I say I would do is, if it comes with a recommendation, if I and the board believe that this is it in Darlington's best interest, we would come to the fans with, the owners with, we would recommend you accept this, because we've done the due diligence. It's still down to the owners then to vote whether they want to do it or not. So I want to be clear on that. There'll never ever be a forced issue here. It'll be the owner's decision, but it would come with, shall we say, the financial due diligence, with the commercial due diligence for the future, with the emotional due diligence of fit. And we'd only bring it forward. I do this in my day job. We'd only bring it forward if we thought it was the right thing to do.
Would there then, obviously, if you put it to the fans, and I think that happened at Wrexham, didn't it? They were in a similar position. I think they had to vote on that decision. Would there be, if an investor was to come forward, a possibility we'd have to relinquish our fan zone status then?
Not necessarily. I mean, Wrexham was an interesting study. If you looked at the finance behind Wrexham, the first injection they had was £2 million. And I think they then secured, I think it was 19 million from a PE fund, private equity fund. Roll that forward 3 years, the club's just been valued at 350 million. And I do think with the investment that's coming in, they're going to make it into the Premier League in the next couple of years. So from a 2 million investment, 4 years ago, to where they are now, it's phenomenal. You've created, imagine putting 10% in, or let's just say someone puts 5% in, £100,000 in that 2 million investment, and you've just sold for 350 million. Well, there you go. Your 100,000's just been worth 17.5 million. So there are investors out there within the American marketplace and beyond who will look at gambling with this. They might gamble 100 grand to get a return like that if they can do the Wrexham story. Now, obviously, that's utopia. They've done very, very well. They've bought well. They've managed well. But where were they before the investment came in? That's my point. Where were they? And they've just gone up and up and up and up. There's a lot of interest with private equity money coming into sport now. And I think you've seen that with the purchase of South Shields. They've got money coming in and they've got bold ambition for the future. And good luck to them. Jeff's put millions into that club over the years, supported them when the cash flow was unsustainable, etc., etc. He's then taken that club to market, and he's found a set of backers, and I wish him all the success for the future, because he deserves it for the time and effort he's put into South Shields Football Club, and let's see where they go from here. But that's my point around where we are as a football club. We have got to compete, otherwise we will get left behind. And that's what we've got to do. We have to compete. We need external investment, and we'll continue to look to do that. One of the barriers to that is not having our own assets. So we've either got to have a share in the ground, for example, like Blackwell, and you know, let's see whether we can get discussions with the club there concluded and get something moving forward. If we don't, we'll stay on a lease and just continue to play there. But ultimately, we need to have a freehold, because that's what an investor will be looking for. What assets do you own as a football club? Well, actually nothing. We've got nothing at the moment. So you either have to have a share of an asset or an option to purchase an asset, such as a freehold option, by which I talked about at the end of the season. If you have a freehold option to purchase a piece of land, then the investor knows they've got the capability to build a ground. And let me be clear, Adam, the investors that come and talk to us have significant financial wealth. They're buying a piece of land of £1 to £2 million, but that wouldn't bother them at all. You know, we're talking about serious individuals that come forward. So buying a piece of land, getting an option, the way it would work is we take an option to buy a piece of land. We say to the landowner, we'd like an option for the next 5 years to have that piece of land, and we'll give you a sum of X. Should we get a step forward next 5 years, you guarantee to sell it at that price. You then have an asset that you can sell on to say, look, we have a piece of land here. We could build a stadium, academy, training ground on. And then ultimately, all the owner steps in and says, right, I know what I'm getting. I've got that. I'm paying £1 or £2 million for a piece of land. That's not going to be a barrier to the individuals we're talking to. Yeah.
Right. I think you said back in May, obviously it's a major priority, and there were 2 possible routes that were being explored. I mean, you mentioned there, you sort of alluded to maybe an agreement with Blackwell Meadows. So we are the tenants there currently. So that's obviously something that's being looked at, DJ. Is it about, exploring that with the rugby club?
We explore every option, Adam. Every option. We've looked at the arena. We look at Blackwell. We look at bits of land. We keep everything bubbling along until something lands. These are very, very complex conversations, as you can imagine, and they're not done overnight.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's the bane of my life. It's frustrating, but we continue to work on it. I was very disappointed when the last one fell through, but these things happen. You've got to go again.
You do, yeah. We've touched on Boost the Budget, DJ, as well. I mean, every season when we launch Boost the Budget, I sort of think to myself, we're not going to do it this season. We're not going to do it. And I thought the same, given the disappointment of last season, I thought there might be some disgruntled fans, but look, Darlington fans, it's absolutely amazing what we've achieved with Boost the Budget, isn't it? And we're seeing clubs at our level actually replicate what we've done as well. What are your thoughts on Boost the Budget, and do you worry maybe longer term if we become too reliant on it?
Look, I think the Darlington fans are second to none. They do it year in, year out, and they are the envy, and every other club that meets us talks about it. They can't believe it. And neither can the players. It's phenomenal. And that's because it's Darlington. We're the only club in the town, and they love their football club, and will continue to love their football club. The club's been there for, 100 and odd years, and 130 odd years, and we want to keep that going. The risk is that people tire and don't see the benefit of the Boost the Budget if we're not progressing. That's the biggest risk. Hence my drive to then look to diversify our revenue streams with external funding. And I'd love to get to a point where we are self-sufficient. Look, at Darlington in the Football League, I've got no doubt we'll get 4,500, 5,000 crowds every game in a proper stadium with the right match day experience. And that is sustainable. It really is sustainable. And that's the target. So we continue to push for that. And we have to rely on Boost the Budget at the moment. Without that, we wouldn't be playing at the level we are. So we again, hats off to the fans. but we've got to keep pushing. And then if we get up, then we've got to manage that and find extra revenue sources to basically enable us to compete in the league above and progress onto the Football League.
Yeah. If we were to, I know we had Will Hatfield on the pod a few months back, and we're talking about the fan sound model. I mean, Will, I think Will was at Guiseley maybe a few years ago, and that they did have a few years in the National League. Will kind of offered that maybe the club in its current state could potentially hold down a National League position. If we were to pull off a free card trick next season and get promoted in our current format, if you like. I mean, you kind of said at the start in terms of the numbers that would be required. Do you think it could be possible that we could, establish ourselves as a National League club in our current guise?
Yes, I do. I think the North is stronger than the South, and I think that we could compete in that level. At that level, I think with the right, we've got great management team, the right tactics selection. If you want to compete and push the top end, you've got to have a budget probably 750 or above. Clubs that get promoted out of that league are paying over £1 million a season. Now we couldn't get to that level, but I think we could compete at that level. We would raise our budget. We'd get more money from the league coming down from the central distribution. And we'd also have increased crowds being associated playing at a higher level. So yes, I do. You've got to finish fifth bottom. And that's what, let's league above. We've got to, first season up, we'd have to do that. And then we'd have to look for greater involvement, greater sponsorship. But showing signs of progression in the league above is also very attractive for an investor coming in.
Yeah, definitely. Let's maybe just look ahead then to next season. I just want to ask you about the playing surface at Blackwell Meadows, and I think the club have put something up on social media in the last day or two, and you've mentioned it in the past. The pitch, the last couple of seasons particularly has been an issue and has probably impacted on the team's performance. And I know you mentioned that you were going to get a company in to undertake an assessment, which I believe may have taken place by now. But yeah, what can you tell us about what's been done on the pitch, and just get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's been a tremendous amount of work done by the rugby club in the close season, and thank them. I have to thank them for their efforts they've gone in, the amount of work that's gone in terms of scarifying, preparation, sand, seed, fertilizer, preparation. Nathan and the team have done a fantastic job, and hopefully this season the pitch will start in a great condition. There are some underlying issues that we've identified through the consultant's report, and we're discussing that with the rugby club about how we fix that moving forward. There's a genuine desire from the rugby club to have the pitch in a good condition. I think sometimes they get unfair criticism about the state of the pitch. But to be honest, the conditions we've had, the dry weather, the number of games that pitch has, make it very, very difficult. But there's a concerted effort from both the Darlington Football Club and the rugby club to give us a surface that really suits our game, where we can get the ball down and play football.
Definitely. I think, particularly the last couple of seasons when we've got to the sort of pointy end of the season, we've seen real problems with that pitch, which has definitely impacted, on the team's performance, having spoken to some of the lads as well. So yeah, I think, fingers crossed we don't have that problem this year. So looking ahead, and with that squad that's being assembled, how confident are you we can maybe just go, just a couple of places higher and nail that top 7 this season?
I'd like to think so. And the players we've signed have proven. I've been quite impressed in pre-season. Some of the trialists look very promising as well. So Stephen Cherry will be working through that. As I say, we've got to get to 16 players by next week for league rules signed on. We'd like to get a first team squad, probably around about 18 to 19 core, and then we'll supplement with loans. And we've talked with number of clubs. Carlisle are very keen to support. Sunderland, Middlesbrough, again, very keen to support. So Newcastle, we've got and some of the Yorkshire clubs. We've got a lot of clubs now looking at us with saying they're very happy to put their young kids out to us to learn and develop under the guidance at Darlington. There's a proven track record now, and And that's great that we have that relationship with the clubs that we can bring players in that add to the squad and add depth to the squad, and also give some of the younger players an opportunity to shine and move on, which they've done. The likes of Charlie Lennon and others. Yeah, and so it's good to see. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Let's just touch on the loans, because last season, I think, we were quite, heavily reliant on the loan market. I think at one stage, because obviously you can only have 5 in the match day squad, and I think there were occasions where one had to be left out because we couldn't fit them all in. Do you think maybe next season, DJ, we won't be seeing that reliance as much on the loan market? We're obviously going to use it, right? But maybe not be as reliant.
Look, it all depends on injuries, doesn't it? We've got first team players there that have come to play. Depends on injuries, depends on squad rotation, depends on fatigue. You're not going to go out the season without losing players to, God forbid, but for example, Will Hadfield, 2 shifts, bang, out for the season. You have those issues. I think the club will continue to look at the loan market because it's good for the loaning club to get the players out. It's good for the lads to come and play, but it also adds that a bit of spark, youth, vitality. We had some fantastic loans last season, and look, Max Howells has joined us full time this season. I have to say, I went to watch the Redcar game. I tell you what, he looked even quicker this year than he did last year. I felt sorry for the right fullback.
I heard. Yeah, he had a rough afternoon apparently. Yeah.
No, but look, Max just he looked really, really good. He came short, got the feet, went past a man. He looked really, really quick. And I think that's an example of a kid who came to us on loan who's now full time with us. And we have a number of individuals lined up to come in from clubs in the northeast and beyond. So it's great that way, and I think we'll continue to fill the squad that way.
Yeah, just on Max there, actually, because I noticed Max is doing some work for the foundation this season. I believe he's going to be involved in helping out with the coaching, isn't he? Is that because I'm sure Max might have had some full-time offers, right? It's very had a great season last season. Is being able to offer that sort of extra work, if you like, with the club maybe a way of just trying to entice him to stay with us, if you sort of get what I'm trying to say?
No, it is. It's a good point, Adam. We haven't touched on the academy. I mentioned the end of the season about academy status for us, and there are players who, some of them who, on full-time wages, won't step down to part-time. Obviously, one from losing the income, but also there are others who are coming to the end of their career where they can still offer 1 or 2 seasons at this level, even the season above, but for various reasons with their home club saying they're not going to start all the time and therefore they're looking to play. Now, those individuals look to supplement their wage. So one of the ideas around the academy, it's twofold. The academies are going to be set up to drive international revenue, international students coming in, paying revenue at the football club, but also it gives us the opportunity for our players to coach there and earn additional revenue as well. So it is an opportunity. And on the academies thing, we're in deep discussions with memorandums of understanding set out with a school and with a university at the moment in the Northeast to establish international academies from September 27. Those conversations are progressing very well. And I'd like to think that we'll have something announced in due course. But again, until ink is dry, we'll be saying nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fingers crossed. I mean, just maybe start to maybe wrap it up now, DJ. But I just want to take you back to that last game of the season against Oxford City. As I mentioned to you, I was back for that one, and I saw you speak on the balcony. You said, on the ground, going back to the ground, if no meaningful progress had been made by, say, May next year, you would probably need to reassess the situation. Would that include considering your own future with the club as well?
Possibly, Adam. I think, I won't walk away from the club, but if the club wanted to go in a different direction, I wouldn't stand in its way. I've always been there to support and do what I can, and I'll continue to do my best for the football club. But if I draw a blank every avenue I go down, then you've got to question whether someone could do a better job, whether someone could come in and do do something different. And I'd be open to supporting that individual if that was the case. I'd like to think we can sort out the issues. I've set two very clear objectives this year. One is the academy status, which could give us significant international revenue coming in, international students coming to play, study in the UK and play football, paying the academy a fee. I think that will work. I've seen it work with Morecambe. They've got 170 students going in across in UCLan, the University of Central Lancashire and Preston. It happens with South Shields at Sunderland. They've got 70 students going there. And there's the I2I Academy at Northumbria. They're three I know of. We are looking at a similar model. That would be significant. So number one is the academy. That would bring in game-changing revenue. And the second is having a decision on the ground. That doesn't mean we've got a ground, but we have an option to purchase and we're working with a developer to develop. Or we have a solution with either Blackwell or somewhere else. That means we're moving forward with purpose. We have to fix those two issues this year. If we don't, then, I'm very open to say, well, actually, does somebody else want to have a go? I'm not saying I'm volunteering to step down, but I would open up to the fans if they wanted to try something different. I'm realist. I'm a realist. The amount of time and effort we spend on this football club is unbelievable. Every single day, I must have 5 or 6, 7 calls. And that's beside the day job when I'm working in London and Cambridge and China, Hong Kong, wherever around the world. So your question is a good one. I don't want to leave the football club, but if the fans decided they wanted a change and something different, then I would happily step aside or even support someone else to come in. But that's one for that's not for now. That's for the end of the season, and we'll see where we get to in the next 9 months. I'd love to be still doing what I'm doing, but we need these issues resolving.
Yeah. Definitely so. And look, I mean, I think the vast number of Darlo fans would very much like you to be with the club, regardless as to, how things do unfold in the next 12 months. But realistically, where would you like Darlington to be in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we're setting goals. So I've set them for the next 12 months, which is academy establishment for September 27 and seeing the first international students coming in, paying revenue at the football club. That's the first point. The second point is having a decision on the ground, either a location that we've discussed and been around, or we have a land purchase, an option to purchase, and then we can talk to developers around funding. You have to remember, if we establish the academies, you're going to create a revenue stream. That revenue stream is significant. That revenue stream is probably significant enough to borrow against. So again, I'm not saying we'll go and do that, but let's be clear. Bringing in substantial amounts of money on a recurring basis every year for international football students coming across. Just for the point, there's 250,000 students in the US who are vying for 20,000 places in the USCL. They're paying a fortune across there, $80,000 to $100,000 a year, dollars a year to play in an academy and study. There's a market there. All right. So that would give us revenue streams that potentially in the future we could start to think about actually we're creating surplus, not deficit. So I'd like either a solution on the ground or an option to purchase. Then we can think about how we go about doing that. We'll continue to look for external investment and see where these talks go. And there are actually fairs in the States where they try to pitch investors with clubs. And again, that's something else we'll consider doing, is looking at that to put a pitch forward around this is Darlington, this is who we are, and this is what we're looking for. We've never actually gone out on the front foot and said, hey, we're open for investment. That's a big difference to sitting there waiting for someone to knock on the door. So that's the year one. Year two, I'd like to think we can get up into the National League. But then when you start getting the revenue and funds behind you, you have to get your own ground. Year three, ground sorted and pushing to get back in the Football League. It's ambitious, I get that, but why are you involved in football if you're not going to be ambitious?
Well, maybe just to finish, DJ, as I said at the start there, coming up to a decade with the club, maybe just get you to reflect on, what's been your proudest moment so far. And I'd like to ask you, what's maybe kept you motivated during some of the more challenging periods with the club?
Proudest moment. That's a tough one. I think we haven't really achieved much. We've got financial stability off the field. Proudest is probably the booster budget thing that I did. It has nothing to do with me, but it does give me a great sense of pride Wherever I go in the world, people talk about it. Wherever I go, people know about it. And it should be something that Darlington fans are very, very proud of. From a success point of view, we haven't delivered much. We've continued to stabilise the club off the field, to have the great control and support, and that's given the club some stability. We have credibility with the councils, with the authorities, credibility with the external stakeholders, and that takes time to deliver, and we've done that. Obviously, darkness, yeah, you do get a level of abuse and criticism, which times that I can take that, but the family don't like it. My family being very supportive and stand by me, and because I want to do this, they stand by me, but they don't like what happens at times. But that's football, and you're going to get the odd 1 or 2% that are going to object. You never can please everybody. I'd like to think that the majority of fans know that they'll always get the truth from me. They'll always get the honest answers from me, and whether they like the answers or not, they're going to get the truth. That's where it is. Let's be honest. It's a fan-owned club, and the fans will get the club that they want, that they deserve by the money that's going in at the moment. Once we change, or if we change, and we bring external in, then we've got a different proposition, and then we have to talk about what the future looks like. But that's clearly the direction of travel. And having spent a lot of time now in the National League, and also sitting on the board of the National League as well, I do get an insight to what's going on up and down the country with all the clubs. And I tell you now, Darlington is viewed in a very, very good light. A very, very good light. So when things like there's an SMCP thing in the Football League where the clubs coming down from League One have got this salary management cap proposal thing. We were in the National League, we're looking to model how we prepare clubs better for that step up from the National League into Football League. And generally, we find that the clubs step up from the National League in a better state than the clubs that come down from the Football League.
Right.
This SMCP thing came through, and it was like, okay, why don't we start modelling ourselves on that? And out of the 72 clubs in the league, National League, Darlington was asked, could you go and model it, because we know you'll be able to pull the data together and get the information back very quickly. So Chris and the team pulled that together within probably a day and a half, and we sent back and said, this is how long it took us to fill in, and this is what it was. It breaks things down into food and beverage, where the income's coming from. So we were asked to do it. Out of the 72 clubs, Darling, go and do that. And that's the credibility we've got. They know the club is run very, very well. They know the club is run professional. The board has a good board of directors. We just need to do the things I keep saying around academy, ground, revenue, because I know with the right budgets, I'm very, very confident Steve will get us up into the next league and above.
Yeah, 100%. No, that seems a good one to finish on. Thank you for your time. This morning for me, this evening for you. A pleasure to chat, and you're always welcome back on. Maybe at some point during this season, you're more than welcome to come back on and chat again. But yeah, thank you for your time,
Adam. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for the candid questions. Very happy to answer them any time. And yes, of course, if you want me to come on again in the future, just please ask.
Brilliant. Thank you.